state officials accountable for what is a severe constitutional abuse. Now, they completely have shredded the Fourth Amendment rights of the American people, and people could and should end up behind bars. Now, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, thankfully, is now saying tonight the Department of Justice will be investigating these FISA abuses. Let's watch.
We believe the Department of Justice must adhere to the highest standards in the FISA court. And yes, it will be investigated. And I think that's just the appropriate thing. The Inspector General will take that as one of the matters he'll deal with.
Finally, we have been unpeeling this story for over a year, while, of course, the liberal media, they've been lying to you, obsessing over so-called Trump-Russia collusion, which is nothing more to this point than a conspiracy theory that they have created out of thin air. There's no evidence. And by the way, as for the extensive, unprecedented Obama-era FISA abuses, we now have a mountain of incontrovertible and corroborated facts and evidence. Liberal Congressman Adam Schiff's his counter memo on FISA abuses has actually confirmed everything that we have been reporting on and everything that is also in the two Republican memos on this scandal. Now, that's why the mainstream media has completely been ignoring what is inside the Schiff memo. It doesn't fit their narrative, and more importantly, it doesn't damage President Trump, which, of course, is their ultimate goal. Here's everything that the Schiff memo corroborates from the Nunes and Grassley-Graham memos. This completely unverified, Clinton bought and paid for dossier that used Russian government sources made up, in fact, a large part of that FISA application to surveil Trump campaign associate Carter Page. Adam Schiff actually writes that a section of the FISA application references parts of the phony dossier about Carter Page meeting with Russians in Moscow in June of 2016. Page, by the way, is denying these lies and that they've never been proven true. I think Mueller would have arrested him by now, or at least charged him. Now, remember, the Grassley and Graham memo said that the Russian dossier made up the bulk of this FISA application. Now, Schiff didn't say that, but yeah, he admits the dossier was used. And the Schiff memo also corroborates that, in fact, the FBI and the DOJ lied and purposely and maliciously misled a FISA judge about Clinton and the DNC paying over $12 million full of the Russian dossier of unverified lies and propaganda. Can you believe this is happening in our country? Now, Schiff's memo actually quotes a part of the FISA application about the dossier having political motivations. But here's the thing. The application never bothered to mention that it was Hillary or the DNC that paid for that dossier. The FBI knew this, but they purposely hid it from the FISA judge, not rank-and-file FBI, that higher echelon that we talk about. They used it to get a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. Here's another key point that the Schiff memo confirms, that the FISA application, yeah, they did mention a Yahoo News article by Michael Isikoff that he wrote about Carter Page. Schiff, however, lied about the fact that the judge was never made aware that the source for the Yahoo article was Christopher Steele. Now, the Republican memos, they actually detailed how this is a major problem because that means that the information was never verified by two independent sources, since Steele was the only source. So those are points that the Schiff memo actually confirms. And here are the key facts that the Schiff memo flat out lies about. The congressman claims that the Trump campaign was never spied on. That is a lie, 100% false, and here's why. When the federal government granted a FISA warrant, that gives them access to every one of Carter Page's old emails, old text messages, and they know every phone call he made, which could date back to when he was with the Trump campaign. Now, Schiff claims that former Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe, that he never testified that without the dossier, they never would have been a FISA warrant application. But the Schiff memo never offers any proof, which likely means it doesn't exist, and my sources confirm that, in fact, McCabe said that. And Schiff does admit that Steele was fired by the FBI for these media leaks, but what Schiff doesn't say is that Steele lied to the FBI about his media contacts. And the Schiff memo tries to play up Christopher Steele's credibility by saying, well, he's worked with the FBI in the past. Yeah, they just fired him. Here's the problem. Schiff never mentions that Steele was using Russian government sources and that the information was never verified independently by the FBI or the DOJ or by anybody. So it should never have been used for any FISA warrant application at all. And finally, Schiff omits this critical piece of evidence according to our reporting, the dossier put the FISA application over the top. In other words, we've been telling you that the first time they tried, it failed. The FISA application was denied. But then the dossier, well, they added that to get the help that was needed so they could, quote, get it approved. And then they lied to the judge. And what it all means is now we have 3 congressional memos that prove a key fact. The FBI lied to a FISA judge about Clinton and the DNC financing the dossier, which was filled with uncorroborated Russian lies, and they did it to spy on the Trump campaign. The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, I'm glad he's moving. He needs to move quickly. Everybody involved needs to be held accountable. We need to restore the rule of law. All right, also breaking tonight.